This will be our beginner level on how to use OBS. Sorry if it's a little distracting because we're capturing OBS. We're getting this kind of infinite window effect here. I'll try to block that in the video a little later on. But know that if you are capturing your screen with OBS, this is how it will start. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that you have OBS downloaded. You can open whatever web browser you want and go ahead and search for OBS. It's going to stand for Open Broadcaster Software, and what you'll see is it's also called OBS Studio in an abbreviation. You can just click download, and you can download it for Windows, Apple's, or Linux. If you're on a Chromebook, you might want to look at some Chromebook extensions, and we can talk about those in another portion of a lesson. I do just prefer this because it gives us more options for recording our videos, and I tend to get better quality when I'm doing things like recording my lessons or recording my video game projects. So the first thing you need to do is set up OBS after you download it. And you'll always have a scene here. You can click to rename that scene, maybe like school display capture, and then you will have a scene in the beginning. You will not have a source. I needed that so I could capture it. The way you add a source is you can hit Add Source and then pick which one you want. Now, the window capture seems like another really good option, and for some programs it works really well. But if you have multiple windows in your project files, sometimes it will just capture that window. So there was one time I was capturing Unity and all it did was capture the inspector window instead of my whole scene. What I normally do with the students, just to avoid any errors, is I do a display capture and then we can just crop off this bottom part in Premiere. When you go to display capture, it's going to give you a name for it. You can name it, you would hit OK. And now I have a lot of mirroring screens, I apologize. If I had two displays or two windows, I could switch those over at this point. I'm not going to because then you'll get to see all my notes, so we'll keep it on this one. There's only about 3 buttons you'll need initially. There'll be a start recording and a stop recording right here. There'll be a setting and there'll be an exit. The other ones we'll explore in intermediate and advanced functions. But when you go to setting, you can actually skip a lot of this. General is going to mostly be okay on its defaults. You can skip streaming unless you plan to do that, although for students that do want to stream, you can set it up to Twitch, YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and that will be something that we can cover in advanced. Output is the big window you want to focus on. If nothing else, make sure you have this and your audio set up. So output, if we weren't recording, we could change the recording path and we would change the recording format. Now it's going to default MKV. It doesn't upload very well to a lot of the web builders and a lot of the websites out there. So I always change this dropdown to MP4. Now your students might forget, so in intermediate we'll show you how you can change an MKV back to an MP4. You can leave the track settings and all that on default. The big thing is just adjust your recording path to wherever you want it to save, and then change your recording format to MP4. From there, you'll also go to audio, and this is where you can set if you want it to capture desktop audio and if you want it to connect to your mic. So I have a snowball set up over here, and I've already pre-connected that, but you could look at the drop-down and change those. You'll know if the audio works because if we go back to these settings, you'll see the desktop audio plays here and the mic audio plays here, so you'll even be able to see your levels. After that, you would actually hit this start recording button and you'll get the screen capture here. To then close your video, you would hit stop recording. It wouldn't be much help to just capture OBS all day. So what we can do is go to our display capture and change those settings. So if I change this, now I have my other window, and this is a Unity demo that I started. Now, you do not need 2 screens to use OBS. You can have both objects on the same screen. I could just minimize OBS. If these were on the same screen, I could start the capture and then minimize OBS and cut out that little part in the beginning where I see OBS capturing itself. And sorry, my fan is really loud right now running both of these at the same time. So that might be a consideration as well. The reason I have my students capture their games is because a lot of times if they make a larger project, whoever's viewing their portfolio has to download it, and not everyone's fine with that. So instead what I do is I have them show the basics of their game, kind of making a quick trailer that people can watch. This also means if they've designed a game that's a little harder to play, whoever's viewing their portfolio can see someone who knows how to play the game, and so they're not struggling to figure out the mechanics just to see what type of thing the student can make. Now that said, we still want this to be interactive, so I tell the students to put both on, and I do ask them to consider the difficulty that they want to make things accessible not just to the top player, that everyone should be able to at least experience a tutorial level. And afterwards, I would have them load this into Premiere and just crop out the extra parts. Once again, I got it to maximize by clicking and going to maximize. If I didn't want it maximized or I wanted to show all the assets and all the components they did, maybe I want to have the students capture something to discuss their entire process. This is why I like that display capture. It won't just capture the window, I capture the whole thing, so I do have options on what to show everyone in their portfolio. When you record, your videos will show up in two different ways here. One, if it's currently recording, it will have the name, but it won't tell you the file size. That's because the MP4 won't actually build the file until you stop recording. That is one thing, if the computer crashes in the middle or such like that, you will lose your capture. So I always tell students, when in doubt, stop their recording and then put multiple clips together in Premiere or whatever video editor you're using, instead of just trying to record everything in one long take. Once it records, it will record with the date. You can rename it, and then you can take that video in to edit it. This is your beginner on how to use OBS, so I hope it was helpful.